Londres.
There are certain ideas that can only be called zombie ideas, zombie memes, that however often they're killed off, keep coming back to life and dragging their bandaged, malodorous way forward again. And up at the top of that list is the idea that someone somewhere is proposing something called trickle-down economics. If you've spent any time on social media, you'll have seen this image, right? Everyone will tell you what's wrong with trickle-down economics. Type trickle-down economics into Google and it will prompt you with debunked, failure, myth, doesn't work. What you won't do is find a single person actually proposing the idea, which is really rather strange when you think about it, isn't it? I mean, the thing about the internet is it allows almost every idea, however eccentric, to find some advocate somewhere. But you will search in vain for any economist seriously proposing that the best way to improve the wealth of any society is to give more money to the very rich to spend on their swimming pools and their Lamborghinis. In 2012, the great American writer Thomas Sowell traced back the provenance of the phrase trickle-down economics. It turns out to have been invented by a man called Samuel Rosenman, who was the speechwriter of FDR. He used it to attack what he called the economic philosophy that has prevailed in Washington since 1921, that if you give wealth to the top, it will trickle down to everyone else. Now, even at the beginning of the 1930s, that idea was based on a grotesque distortion of what had actually happened. What took place in the US in the 1920s was a kind of Laffer curve thinking avant la lettre. Calvin Coolidge, perhaps the most underrated of all US presidents, discovered that huge punitive tax rates, people on $100,000 were being taxed at 73%, was taking money out of the economy and depressing government revenues. So the top rate of federal income tax was cut by 1929 in stages to 24%. And what happened? The richest 1%, went from paying 30% of all taxes in 1921 to paying 65% in 1929, and the overall amount of taxes grew. It works every time. If you have lower, flatter, simpler taxes, the rich end up paying more in both absolute and proportionate terms. What we free marketeers believe in is not trickle down, but trickle up. The unique genius of capitalism is that it allows people to fulfill their aspirations by providing a service to everybody else. So if I go shopping at IKEA or at Aldi, or if I fly EasyJet, I'm enriching the owner of that company, but he's enriching me because he's found a way of providing a service more cheaply and more conveniently to me than anyone had done up until that moment. So if you like, it's trickle up. It's a way uniquely that rewards human endeavor in proportion to how much people have provided a competitive service to everyone else. No other system in the world has engendered so much creativity, so much innovation. And the best of it is, the more you flatten rates, the more you get out of the rich. Driving plutocrats into retirement or into emigration just means that the rest of us have to pick up their bill. It worked for Ronald Reagan in the 1980s, it worked for Nigel Lawson and Margaret Thatcher at the same time. Cutting the top rates meant that the rich ended up paying more in both relative and absolute terms. And even now, the reduction in the top rate of income tax in the UK, sure enough, has resulted in an immediate, palpable uptick in the amount of money being paid by the top 1%. So I agree. I agree with all of those end austerity now people. Make the rich pay more. Do it by cutting their taxes.